morning, and welcome back to the virtual Big Day In for week 7. We hope you had a wonderful and safe holiday. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today across Australia. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. My name is Shorju Das Zaman, an intern at the ACS Foundation, and I will be your virtual Big Day In co-host today. Today, we have two presenters who have very different experiences working in technology. First, we'll hear from Dr. Tim Kitchen from Adobe, who is talking about turning your passion into a job. Then, we'll be hearing from Major Ben Harrington from Defence Force Recruiting about all the STEM careers available in defence. Remember, you can always ask questions of either presenter during their presentations, no matter how trivial they seem. Just hit the Ask a Question button on the bottom right, type something up, and we'll take care of the rest. First up today is Dr. Tim Kitchen. Tim was a teacher for 23 years prior to taking up his current position as Adobe Senior Education Specialist for the Asia Pacific region. During his virtual presentation today, he'll be explaining to you why you shouldn't have to wait until you've finished school or university to establish what you love doing and how to turn that passion into a job. He'll also go through some of the skills that are considered the most important to thrive in IT, multimedia, and many other industries. So please join me in welcoming our first presenter for today, Dr. Tim Kitchen from Adobe, with Turn Your Passion into a Job.
Thanks, Shorju, and it's an honour to be back at another Big Day In event, albeit a virtual session, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank John Ridge and Kerry Bizzaro and their team from the Australian Computer Society Foundation for organising these sessions. I'd also like to thank the teachers who have organised getting their students involved for today, and of course, most importantly, all the students who are watching this and watching the recordings. We're going to start by doing a poll. Can I get you to get your phone out? Get your phone, get your tablet device, whatever internet device you've got, hover over that QR code with the camera, and that'll open up the poll. If you're not able to do that now for whatever reason, just go to any browser or go to a different window if you're looking at a browser at the moment and type in menti.com, menti.com, and then use the code 87768. That's going to get you into a poll with a bunch of questions, or a bunch of statements, I should say. I want to find out a bit about you guys and where you guys are all at in terms of where you're thinking in terms of the future and jobs and skills and so on. So I'm looking at the results of those polls as they're starting to come in. And as soon as we get some results, I'm going to bring them across to the screen so you can see. The very first statement, you need to give me a strongly disagree or a strongly agree, and work on that continuum for the first statement, which is, I know what I want to do for a job in the future. Now let's start seeing the results now. I'll bring them across to the screen, and you can see that we've got quite a lot of people who already know what they want to do for a job in the future, which is pretty awesome. And if I hover over it, we can see the people who have started filling out the poll now. There's not that many people have, so keep getting onto it, folks. It's menti.com, menti.com, and the code is 87768. And if you get onto that, the more people who do the poll, the better the data it is. So we've got 6 of you on at the moment. Hopefully we'll get a few more soon, 7 of you now, and we're starting to get some more results. The second part is my future employment will involve coding. And so far, one person has strongly agreed, one person has strongly disagreed with that. The second one is learning IT skills at school will help me with my future employment opportunities. 2 of you strongly agree. No one strongly disagrees with that, which is good. And then we've got a few people in the middle there. We've only got 10 people, 11 people now. Come on, folks. Menti.com, and then the code is 87768. You can see the code at the top there. Let's look at this fourth one here. I already earn money doing what I'm passionate about. No one at the moment, or one person has just popped in there. Well done. And most of you, 12 of you, have said you're not at the moment, which is not unusual, but we'll be talking a bit about that during this session. I work well with a team. We've got 7 of you who strongly agree with that. No one who strongly disagrees, which is really pleasing to see. And then plenty in the middle there. I think I am creative And we've got 12 people who strongly agree out of the 28 who are with us at the moment. And we've got only one who strongly disagrees with that. Lots of people there in the middle. I have a passion for coding. 3 people strongly agree. 11 strongly disagree. 12 now strongly disagree, and then quite a few in the middle. And I have a passion for design. We've got 7 who strongly agree, 2 who strongly disagree, and then lots in the middle. Let's just jump back up to the top again. I know what I want to do for a job in the future. 8 people are definitely agreeing on that. 4 people strongly disagreeing, most people in the middle. So that gives us a good idea of where you guys are all at in relation to those statements. Let's move on. You can keep doing that poll if you want to. We might come back to that in a sec. But what I'd like to do now is just share with you a program that we're running at the moment with Lady Gaga. That's right, the Lady Gaga. And it's interesting that with the release of Lady Gaga's 6th album, Chromatica, Adobe have been partnering with her to challenge digital artists to use their creativity and bring their own inner world of Chromatica to life. Digital artists were encouraged to use any of their favorite Adobe Creative Cloud applications such as Photoshop, Illustrator, Fresco. Have you heard of Fresco? It's a brand new free drawing app. Brilliant drawing app for the iPad Pro and for the Windows tablet. Spark, Adobe Spark, InDesign, or any of those apps to actually represent Chromatica with the hashtag Lady Gaga X Adobe. If you want to look up that hashtag now and have a look at the amazing work that has been achieved, let's have a look at some of the examples now of what has been achieved. This program only just closed last week and it wasn't available in Australia, which is why you probably didn't hear about it. But it's incredible to see the work that has been achieved by these artists from around, well, mainly in America. And we need to decide on a winner. And the winner is going to get $10,000 cash. And that's American dollars too, so that's a lot of money. They're also going to get their print. They're going to get their print high quality printed out and autographed by Lady Gaga herself. And they're also going to get a 12-month Adobe All Apps Creative Cloud subscription, which, by the way, is a prize that we're offering someone from the big day in here. Someone who's joined us as well, I believe. And I think if Kerry's listening, that was the question I was going to ask you, just to confirm that. So Lady Gaga is an interesting example of someone who's worked really hard to have the success that she is currently enjoying. When she was about your age, her name was Stephanie Joanne Angela Germanotto, I think something like that. Probably didn't pronounce it really well. But at your age, she sang at open mic nights. She acted in whatever school play she could get involved in to get experience and to help develop her passion for singing and acting. When she was your age, she described herself as very dedicated, very studious, very disciplined, but also very insecure. She considered herself a bit of a misfit and was often teased and bullied. She had to work really hard to develop her talent and her passion and went through some very, very difficult and disturbing experiences as a young person. She's a great example of a young person who's worked out what her passion was when she was about your age, even younger, and she turned that passion into a career. Billie Eilish is another example of someone that has done the same. We've been working with Billie now for a couple of years, and most recently she's helped us promote the new Photoshop camera. Have you come across this? It's a free app on your iPhone, on your Android device too, if you do a search for Photoshop camera. And what Billie's been doing is been providing these really cool filters that appear as soon as you take the, or even before you take the photos, you can see the filter in there. A nice way of being creative with your photographer. She's another great example of someone who discovered their passion. Her and her brother Phineas both discovered that they had this amazing passion and skill for songwriting and recording. And they've both been incredibly successful, and they've turned this passion into a job. One of the great pleasures I have in my job is I get to visit schools and universities all around Australia, Southeast Asia, and I get to go to America a few times a year as well. Well, I used to anyway. And I get to meet students who are very creative and they're doing their schoolwork in creative ways, and they're actually turning their passions into a job while they're still at school. They're photographers, they're video makers, they're coders, they're graphic designers. They're not waiting to finish school or university or to get a formal qualification. They're setting up their small businesses and their startup companies while they're still at school, and they're turning their passion into a job. It's amazing to see, and it was great to see on the poll. Let's just bring the poll over back now into the screen so you can see we've got 53 people who have had a go at it now. I know what I want to do for a job in the future, and we've got 12 people who already have a really good idea, but the bulk of you aren't quite sure, which is perfectly normal. My future employment will involve coding, and we've got 6 of you who say yes, 11 who say definitely no, but lots of you in the middle, which is very, very normal. Learning IT skills at school will help me improve my future employment opportunities. You can see most of you would tend to agree with that. And I already earn money doing what I'm passionate about. 7 of you have already started turning your passions into a job. That is so awesome. And some of you, most of you haven't yet, but you're probably thinking now, you're probably just trying to work out what your passions are. It's really an interesting thing to do. As an employer, we get about 100 resumes to deal with a month. We're considered one of the top workplaces around the world, actually. We're always in the top 10 of the most desired workplaces to work at, as are a lot of IT companies. And employers like us, what we're looking for in young people, in potential employees, are people who don't necessarily play a lot of games, but they make games. They do have coding skills, and they're able to turn those coding skills into making things. They don't necessarily watch lots of YouTube, but they have their own YouTube channels. And in fact, they've turned their resume into a video, and they've become really creative in the way that they promote and brand themselves. We're looking for people who work well with others, people who are creative, people who don't give up when things get hard, but are keen to solve problems. See, these are the skills we're looking for. And my challenge to you at your age is to be developing these skills, developing skills that you know will be employable in the future. The most in-demand soft skills of 2019, according to LinkedIn, are these ones here. Look at them. The 5th most important: time management, adaptability, collaboration has been a bit of a theme there, persuasion. And look at the #1 skill, according to LinkedIn, that's required, the most in-demand skill. Now, LinkedIn, of course, is where people go to promote themselves. It's where employers like us, it's where we go to find talent. And we're looking for people who are creative. So keep developing those skills. My challenge to the teachers who are watching this, please, when you're setting your assessments, encourage students to develop their skills in these areas with your assessments. Try to make sure most of your assessments are teamwork, group work-based assessments. I was a teacher for 23 years, can you believe it? I've been working for Adobe for 7 years. So obviously I started teaching when I was about 5. No, that's not true. But the reality is that when I was setting my assessments, I was always trying to get students to work in teams as much as possible. Even at the highest level, I taught in Victoria. So in the VCE, whenever I had an opportunity to set an assessment, I try to make it a teamwork-based assessment and give the students an opportunity to be creative in everything they do. Folks, if you need to do an essay, that's fine, do the essay, but then ask your teacher, can I turn this essay into a documentary? If you're needing to do a science experiment, fine, do the science experiment, but then ask your teacher, can I turn this into a little television show? So you're actually showing off what you're producing. The more you can develop your communication skills and your creativity skills, the better for you in the future. According to this group called Innovation Science Australia, an Australian student leaving school today is likely to have 5 different careers in 17 different jobs over their working life. By the time they're my age, they're likely to have that type of stat, which is interesting. I'm not so sure if that's going to be the case, whether it's going to be higher or lower in the next few years. But what's interesting also is you guys are Gen Z, between the ages of 5 and 25. We've had a bit of an issue with the generation above you, the millennials, actually the group of people that I taught, in a sense, 25 to 40-year-olds at the moment. The problem with millennials, I want you to learn from their mistakes. Some of the research that's come through here, many millennials are struggling to keep their jobs, which could be a reason why they're having to do so many jobs and changing careers so often. Maybe, maybe not. Top reasons millennials are getting fired: lack of vision, miscommunication, lack of confidence. Trevor Muir is a teacher, author, speaker, researcher. He's summing up the main reasons for millennials having issues. Millennials find it hard to work in teams. They probably weren't that encouraged to do so when they were at school. They lack confidence in themselves and in their decisions. They suffer from anxiety. They struggle presenting and communicating, again, possibly because it's not that encouraged at school. When millennials were at school, and when I was at school, and I'm not a millennial, I'm older than that, we had to sit and listen to a teacher talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. That's not encouraging communication. That's not encouraging presenting. And they find critical thinking difficult. The skills that many millennials are lacking are collaboration, complex problem solving, creativity, confidence, communication, and critical thinking, the so-called soft skills. LinkedIn, in their 2019 Global Talent Trends report, showed that 92% of talent professionals and hiring managers say that soft skills are just as important or more important than hard skills. And year after year, the word creative is the single most searched term on LinkedIn. Now think about that. LinkedIn, we've talked about how important LinkedIn is as a tool. If you're not already on LinkedIn, I suggest you get onto it. If you want to get a job in the future, you need to be on LinkedIn. And when we as employers are looking for people, we'll do a search for creative. Who thinks they're creative? They're the people who are going to be at the top of the list in the shortlisting who will get the jobs. So the question is, how can you stand out from the crowd and show off your skills and your passion? We did a study last year, 2 million job ads we looked at, and not just Adobe, we had a research company do this with us. 2 million job ads and 2 million resumes we looked at. And we looked at the skills like collaboration. We were involved in this study. We found that skills like collaboration, communication, and creativity are highly sought after by up to 70% of hiring managers, but only a small fraction of applicants feature these skills in their resume or in the interview conversations. So when you're practicing your interview skills, when you're doing your resumes, show off your creative skills. Show off that you have got a way of communicating, and use applications like the Adobe applications to show off your way of branding yourself in a creative way. We are the #1 company for digital creativity around the world, and our applications are in just about every school in Australia. There's not many schools that do not have access to Adobe applications. We're used at the highest level of multimedia. I don't know if you've come across any Marvel films in the last 5 years. They've all been made with Adobe Premiere Pro, Adobe After Effects, and Adobe Photoshop. But there's also a great bunch of applications that are used at primary schools and high schools. This is a young girl I met earlier this year, Mickey. She's using Premiere Pro to advertise her company, which makes cakes. And she advertises her Instagram site, and she's got a business while she's still in year 9 at a school in Melbourne, using her skills in video production to promote her passion for cake making. A great example of turning your passion into a job. Now, you might be totally new to the world of Adobe. You may not be ready for Premiere Pro and Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign. So start with Spark. Start with Adobe Spark. Simple ways of getting posters made with Spark Post on your Android device, on your iOS device, on your browser at spark.adobe.com. Spark Page for making a web page, for making a resume, and promoting that resume and being creative. And if I got a Spark page as a resume, I'd be putting you on the top of the list, on my short list, ready for an interview, because you're showing that you are creative. Spark Video. What a wonderful, simple way to make videos. In fact, I'm yet to find a simpler application to make a video that involves voiceovers and still images and moving images and titles. You can do it all incredibly simply with Spark Video, and they're totally free. So if your school doesn't have Photoshop, Premiere Pro and Premiere Rush, you've already got Spark Video anyway. Folks, we've got applications that help you with image manipulation, from Photoshop right through to Spark Post, and you can see Illustrator in the middle there. Get to know these apps to work on your manipulation skills. We've got apps that help you with print and presentations, to work on your presentation skills, to create your resumes and your posters. We've got apps that help you with video and sound production, from Premiere Pro right down to Spark Video, and augmented reality apps and virtual reality apps and 360 video apps. So many creative things to work at. For creating prototypes of apps through Adobe Experience Design, helping with your design thinking. If you need any help with these applications, go to helpx.adobe.com. That's the Adobe Help Center, helpx.adobe.com. And we've got a YouTube channel called Creative Cloud, the Adobe Creative Cloud. Get support, get help, look at the experts and learn from them. Teachers who are watching this, we've got this program now for teachers that involves 850,000 teachers at the moment from around the world, called the Adobe Education Exchange, edx.adobe.com. Join it, get to know it, and learn how to use these apps in your classroom. Folks, turn your passion into a job and keep being creative. That's it from me, folks. Hope you have enjoyed the rest of this session.
Perfect. Thanks, Tim. We'll get to a few questions quickly. Firstly, the first question that we've got from an anonymous user, how do you get the Photoshop camera onto your device?
Yeah, just go to the Apple App Store or go to the Google Play Store and do a search for Adobe Photoshop Camera.
Perfect. Another similar question related in that vein, is the Fresco app that you were talking about before, is that free for school students?
Yeah, it's free for anybody. It's free for iOS and it's free for Windows tablets. There's no Android version yet, but it's ideally on the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil. It kind of works beautifully with this, but it also works beautifully with a Windows stylus. So it's very much a drawing app and it's free.
Wonderful. Another question, did you get to meet Billie Eilish when she worked with Adobe prior to all this happening?
She came to our big conference in Los Angeles last year, and it was amazing. She's such an inspiration, and yeah, so I met her, but with thousands of others as well. Yeah.
Good to hear. Another question about the software that you use today, actually. What are the best ways and what are the most creative ways that you've been able to use Menti to gather survey data?
Well, I like Menti just because it's free for a start. You don't have to pay for it unless you want to get a full version. And it's just so simple to use. And as long as your questions, your statements are good, and there's lots of different ways you can work with it, but it's just a nice way to interact with people when you're doing a presentation, just to get their thoughts before you start. As a teacher, a great way to do pre-assessment, to do that diagnostic testing so you can find out what the students already know before you teach. And that's one of the things is that when I teach teachers, I encourage them, don't waste students' time teaching them things that they already know. That's just a fundamental part of being an educator these days. So Menti's a great way of doing that.
Wonderful. Just about Adobe software and what's available for us to use, is there an Adobe software or something as part of the Creative Cloud that students or other people can use to create an app prototype? And how much is that going to set people back?
Look, in most schools it's free because it's part of the Creative Cloud. It's called Adobe XD, Adobe Experience Cloud. Experience Design, Adobe XD. It's part of the Creative Cloud. These days, if you've got Photoshop, you've got the Creative Cloud. You've got all the apps, all 25 of them, and Adobe XD is one of them.
Perfect. We've got time for just a few more questions. What advice would you give to students, I guess, who have a lot of study commitments and have a lot of other commitments, but also want to pursue their passion and turn that into a job?
Yeah, well, time management is that one of those fundamental soft skills, and it's just a matter of thinking about what are your priorities. Obviously, school and getting through the school system, the education system, is important. It is, you still potentially have an exam to do at the end of the year that you've got to get ready for. That's just the way it is. But then think about all the other things that are involved in your life. Are you spending a lot of time just watching Netflix? Are you spending a lot of time sitting on YouTube rather than creating your own videos on YouTube? Think about your priorities. Are you spending a lot of time on Fortnite playing games rather than actually building your own games? Because that, again, is the skill that we're looking for. So it's all about time management and working out your priorities.
Excellent advice for a lot of the students who are watching us today. Another thing, sort of in a similar vein, how do you suggest that students select subjects or select things that they want to do if their schools aren't able to offer their passions or aren't able to provide them with the means to follow their passions and turn those into a job?
Yeah, it's a common problem. Schools are limited in terms of how many students they have as to what subjects they can offer. Look, distance education is always an option in every state to do subjects that schools can't necessarily cater for. If you can't find a school that will do that, then you look at other opportunities. You look at YouTube, you look at other ways of learning outside of the education system to develop your skills. Learn from other young people who are turning their passions into a job, and just get involved with the communities that are out there, the virtual communities, and realize that there's so much more to life outside of the school education system.
Amazing advice. We'll have time for 2 more questions just quickly. Is it essential for students to go to further education or to go to something like TAFE or uni if they want to pursue their passions as a career, or are they able to jump straight out of school and turn that into a full-time pursuit?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's no doubt that university degrees are nowhere near as significant as they were when I was your age. But in saying that, if you haven't got a university degree, you are behind the 8 ball. When I look at the short list of people that we'll be employing for whatever job it is at Adobe, whether it's a legal job, like a lawyer job, obviously you need to have a university degree to be a lawyer. If it's a sales job, if you've got a business degree, you're going to get ahead of the others who haven't got a business degree. So doing that university degree is still really important. It gives you that head start, but most importantly, it shows us as employers that you have the ability to learn how to learn. Because when you're at university, you're not spoon-fed like you are at school. You don't have a teacher hovering over you all the time saying, get that assignment in all the time. You have to manage your own learning. You have to be an independent learner, which is a real struggle for a lot of people when they leave the school system and go into university. But once you've successfully navigated through that, you've proved to a future employer that you can do it. And that's what a degree gives you. It doesn't really matter what the degree is in many cases. If we're employing someone to be a customer success manager, it could be a degree in IT, it could be a degree in sales, it could be a degree in business, it could be a degree in education or in nursing. It doesn't matter. It's because you've done the degree that will tick that box.
Perfect. And we've got time for just one more question. What advice would you give students who feel like they're not progressing or they're not learning the correct soft skills at school or in their traditional learning environments?
Yeah, we'll move away. Like, you still have to play the system at school. There's no way around that. There are certain things you kind of have to do while you're at school. Try to, if you get a choice of going to certain subjects, look for the subjects where the teachers are most passionate about their curriculum areas. Even if you don't have a passion at this stage, you'll probably develop that from that teacher. And those are the teachers that are just gems to have at your school, and learn from them. If you can't find a teacher that's going to give you that drive and that passion, then look outside of the school system for all sorts of opportunities, like I suggested before, whether it's a youth group, whether it's a virtual club, whether it's just going onto YouTube and working out where your networks are. That's where you'll be getting a lot of extra learning and preparing for future job skills.
Wonderful advice, Tim, as always. Thanks for taking the time out of your day as well to actually talk to everyone about how they can blend the arts and STEM and turn their passions into a job.
Thanks, Georgiou. It's a pleasure. All the best, everyone. Keep being creative.
As in previous weeks, questions submitted for Tim that he couldn't answer during this session will be posted on our site, www.thebigdayin.com.au, in the next few days. Next up today is Major Ben Harrington. Ben is an Army officer with over 25 years of military and engineering experience. Ben is a graduate of the Royal Military College, an associate graduate of the Australian Defence Force Academy, holds a Bachelor of Electrical Engineering from the University of New South Wales, and holds a Masters of Gun Design from Cranfield University. He has spent his career primarily around land-based assets and has worked on technologies such as body armour, parachutes, camouflage equipment, firearms, and much more. So please welcome our next presenter for today, Major Benjamin Harrington from Defence Force Recruiting with STEM careers in defence.
Thanks very much, Georgiou. It is a great pleasure to be here today. I really do enjoy the Big Day In. I've been involved for a couple of years. Of course, I like getting out and meeting a lot of young Australians who are passionate about STEM, but this is the best we can do for today, and it's my pleasure to be here. I'll be talking a bit about the Australian Defence Force, careers in STEM, opportunities in STEM, I do really get excited about this. I'm genuinely excited. I've been in the military for 26 years. I'm an electrical engineer. I've had so many opportunities open to me thanks to STEM, and I want to pass that on to you. There's a few people there in the photo. That's clearly me in the middle. That's the engineering team within Defence Force Recruiting. So if you've got any questions about engineering, we're here to help you. But I just want to talk about my career as an example of STEM and what happened in my life. I grew up in a small country town called Gympie in Queensland. Grew up on a farm, pretty simple upbringing, and I really wanted to get out and see Australia and see the world and do something adventurous. I was a nerd. I was good at physics and maths, and I really enjoyed that, but I had no idea where that would lead me and what doors it would open. So I left school and I did the gap year, the Army gap year, and I was driving trucks, and I thought, this Army stuff, this is great, because I was working in small teams. It was great structured training. I was doing lots of sport and physical training. I love the income, I love the money, and I love the opportunities for progression. So I decided to make a bit of a career out of it at that stage. And I applied to go to the Royal Military College and graduated as an officer a few years later. And then I applied to go to the Australian Defence Force Academy and study electrical engineering, and I graduated from that too. And so since then, since becoming an engineer, I have been able to work on such a range of equipment, and Georgiou introduced a few of those earlier. Things like working on parachutes. You know, I didn't know much about parachutes, but here I was, an engineer working with a couple of senior parachute riggers. And what do you do when you're an engineer working on parachutes? You got to strap a parachute to your back and jump out a couple of times so you know the hardware you're dealing with. And then I was responsible for bringing in the next generation of the round parachutes, the static line ones that the infantry jump out of the back of the plane in. I got to work on body armor. Now that was pretty exciting. So that was strapping body armor to mannequins with plasticine chests and shooting them a bunch of times and testing the limits of that body armor and getting it as protective as possible. I've got to work on weapon systems. I did a Masters of Gun Design thanks to the military, who sponsored me to go over to England and study at an English university, a degree that you can't do here in Australia. And I learned all about guns, big guns, small guns. So these sort of things I never envisaged myself doing when I was in school. And I didn't know STEM could be so exciting. And so that's why it gives me a great pleasure to be talking here today and passing this on. So let's talk a bit about the Australian Defence Force and what we do. Now, it's pretty obvious we're here to defend Australia. It's in the title. But what's interesting about Australia is that we're this continent down the bottom of the world. We own the whole country, so we don't need to worry about borders with other people. And we're surrounded by sea. Our land is girt by sea. And if you look at it all, we've got 10% of the world is we're responsible for, and we've got to defend and secure that. So we've got a big job, 10% of the world with a small population and a small defence force. And that means we have to be damn good at our job. We have to use state-of-the-art technology train really well, train really hard to survey, patrol and secure that area. So that's our key job, is to defend Australia. We also do a lot of humanitarian aid and disaster relief, and you would have seen a lot of that recently with cyclones and floods in the last few years, and then of course earlier this year the devastating bushfires. The ADF helped out a lot there, and now with COVID-19, the ADF's been called in as well. So we do have a lot of skills and knowledge and expertise to offer to Australia to help in times of need. And of course, internationally, we're there to help stabilise countries, provide support peace and stability throughout the world. So we really are a force for good, and we require good, smart, technically enabled young Australians to come and join our teams and help us do that demanding job. Now, when it comes to STEM in the military, we've got over 250 jobs in the military. You know, everything from truck driver to engineer to pilot to air traffic controller to marine warfare officer to diver, you name it. We've got so many different roles, and some you would never have heard of, and so many of them require STEM, that they are be it trades, be it medical staff, be it engineers, be it pilots and air crew. But what I'll be talking about today is the Australian Defence Force Academy, which is where, if you've got the smarts and you want to be an officer in the Army, this is the best way to join the Defence Force, get the training and the education you need to launch that defence career and further career beyond that. So let me tell you a bit about the Australian Defence Force Academy. It's down there in Canberra. It's a pretty small university campus. It's only about 1,000 cadets there. So you really end up getting to know so many other officer cadets from the Navy, Army and Air Force. They offer a range of degrees, science and arts and IT and cyber, and they're all great pursuits. And I'll be talking about the engineering degrees there. So if you're interested at all, Google ADFA, jump on to defencejobs.gov.au, look up ADFA, jump on YouTube, look up ADFA. There's so much out there to have a look at what ADFA is like and what a day in the life at ADFA is like. The 4 engineering degrees there: mechanical, electrical, aeronautical, civil, great degrees, prerequisites, physics, maths, methods and English, and an ATAR of 85. So if you've got that and you're interested in becoming an officer and a leader and working with that state-of-art equipment across the services, across the air domain, the land domain, the sea domain, absolutely check it out. That ATAR of 85, I should note that you can get bonus points if you're got leadership roles at school, study remotely, Indigenous, or you've got high sporting achievements. You can boost that by up to 5 points. And the real difference about ADFA, there's a few key differences. One, you get paid to train. So you're getting about $50,000 a year whilst in training. And you don't have to worry about flipping burgers at McDonald's. We'll take care of all of that. And we will train you. We'll train you to become an officer. We're going to provide you a lot of additional training in amongst your academic training. So that's doing sport, physical education, drill, field training, leadership training, communication training, all these soft skills that we spoke about earlier, teamwork skills, to enable you so that when you leave ADFA, you have grown, you have matured, you've practiced your leadership, you've practiced your communication, you've practiced your teamwork, and you're ready to go out and lead technical teams to do the jobs that we need to do in those technical areas. So additionally, over and above the academic year, we do single service training, and that's where Army go off and do Army stuff, go out bush and run around and play soldiers. And Navy go off and do Navy stuff and go out to sea and tie knots and all that good Navy stuff. And Air Force, they do what Air Force do, and they stay in 5-star hotels and look at planes, and they do that Air Force stuff. So by the end of your time at ADFA, you really know your service and you're ready to go. I will say, up to the end of the second year at ADFA, you can leave at any time without any penalty. So if you think that this isn't for you, then you can apply to leave and there's no penalty. So there really is no reason to not consider it. And if you're age 16 or over, check it out. It's really that's what really launched my career. So the ADF, what it is about the ADF that makes it so different? Well, we are an employer like no others, and it is a job like no others. We have really good flexible work, really good professional development, career progression. It's really exciting and adventurous. I've worked in every state in Australia. As I said, I did a master's in England. I've been deployed to the Middle East, conferences in the US, and so much. I've seen so much of the world thanks to the ADF. Great salary, all those things, good job security, which is difficult these days. But what it does, when we talk about careers and jobs, the ADF offers you a career with a bunch of different jobs inside of it. So you get to move between different roles and try different things. And of course, our sport, we do lots of sport and physical training, and that's what sets us apart. Now, I will say for all the viewers out there, please send your questions in. I'm going to allow about 10 minutes of question time at the end, and I'd love to hear your questions. So keep them coming in, and I'll answer those at the end of the presentation. So what do we look for in applicants? Well, we're after you have to be an Australian citizen. You have to be motivated. We're going to provide you good training, and we're going to train you in different parts of Australia and train you to do a fairly demanding job. So we need you to be motivated, a high level of maturity. You're going to be responsible for lives, for dollars, for capability, for the defence of Australia. So we need people who are up for that challenge and have values and morals that are consistent with that. We need you to have leadership potential. Now, we offer great leadership training, and we will build on your potential. So, questions earlier asked to Tim were, how can you build on that? Get involved in student societies, get involved in productions at school, get involved in arts and theatre, get involved in communities and charities and sports clubs and all these things. The more you can do in that space, the more you'll develop your interpersonal skills, your ability to influence other people, and your emotional intelligence to understand other people. And they're all really good soft skills, really important to be a good officer. You need good communication, physically and mentally robust, adaptable and disciplined. So when it comes to the fitness standards, I get asked this a lot. They're the fitness standards. They're the female pre-entry standards for the Navy, Army and Air Force. You do push-ups, sit-ups, and the beat test. Everyone loves the beat test. And the male ones are here, and you can see the push-ups change. There's a few extra push-ups for the blokes. Now, this is the standard to get you started. If it looks easy, it's because it is. If it looks hard, don't discount yourself. You can train up to that and get to that standard. And in fact, if you're at all worried, you can Google, download the ADF Active app, which is a really good app to help train you to do the shuttle run, the beat test, the push-ups, and make sure it's all with the right technique. So really good app, check it out, and it can design you a personalized program to improve your fitness. So how do you join? What I'll say is if you're at least 16 years of age and you're an Australian citizen, you should absolutely, I highly recommend doing steps 1 and 2. The reason I say that, step 1, apply online, take you a few minutes, no problem, or call 13 1901. Step 2 is attend a virtual information session and do an aptitude test. And the reason that's so good is it will unlock, or it'll tell you what you've unlocked out of the 250 jobs we've got in defence, which ones you have the aptitude for. And you don't have to do anything past that. It is just a great list of things that as I described earlier, all the jobs in defence that you have the aptitude for. So even just out of interest sake, why not do it? From there, if you want to progress, you go and attend an assessment day, and that is an interview, a job interview. And for the officers, those going to ADFA or any officer role need to attend an officer selection board. So this whole process takes about 3 to 6 months. So if you're in year 12, get your skates on and apply today. If you're in year 11, now's a very good time to apply, and you can do steps 1, 2, and 3 whilst in year 11. Steps 4, 5, and 6, officer selection board, do the fitness test, and you've trained up for that, so you're all good to go, and then appoint. So that's the way in. That's the same method for everyone in defence, except the officers all do the officer selection board. Yeah, absolutely. You've got nothing to lose. You can pull out any time you want. And if you don't do well on that step 2 on that aptitude test, you can come back 6 months later and have another crack. So that's why it's a good time in year 11 to have a go of that aptitude test, see what you unlock, and go from there. Hey, look, that's really good time. I've allowed a good 10 minutes of questions because I know every time I come and chat to the Big Day In, I get so many good questions about the ADF, and I'm happy to chat about ADFA. I'm happy to chat about university sponsorship. I'm happy to chat about trades. I'm happy to chat about other ways to get in. So that's the end of my formal presentation. So, George, have you got any questions from the crowd?
Yeah, absolutely. Got heaps of questions. We'll sort of start more with the Defence Force and the Army and your experience as well, and then we'll sort of filter to more towards the pathways and finding our way into ADFA and all that. But firstly, does the Army use anything such like virtual reality or any other of those newer technologies for their training purposes?
Yeah, look, we do, and we're getting better and better at it. In the past, we used to buy the equipment like the tank or the truck or whatever, and then try to get the simulator to replicate that. Now we're just getting it as a whole box and dice. So when we buy a new capability, we're getting the simulation as part of that, and we're integrating our simulation as well. So, for example, as infantry might be doing a section attack, the armoured crew commander is also in the same system and doing armoured support, as the aviators doing the same aviation support, and as artillery. And that's the Army example. But yeah, simulation, it is the way of the future. It's because it's so much better and cheaper. In fact, I worked on a simulation system, and if anyone out there is in cadets, you've probably seen it, the weapons training system, which is where you have a simulated weapon. It feels the same. It's got the same recoil. But it's just got a laser inside, and you're able to go into this as a building and shoot the laser at the wall. But it's all virtual reality, and you're able to score yourself and improve your marksmanship principles. So yeah, there's a lot of simulation, and it's growing.
Wonderful. Sounds exciting. What types of engineering and STEM skills do you find are the most useful and required for gun design?
Oh, gun design's mostly mechanical, and it's interesting because I'm an electrical engineer, but that gave me an advantage because when you've got a basic weapon system, it's quite mechanical, but guess what you add to it? Laser aiming devices, night vision equipment, different scopes and optics, and all this other technology. And so it's really good, really interesting working at the interface of different areas like electrical and mechanical. So yeah, it's definitely mechanical based, but it's got a fair bit of electronics involved now and growing.
Sort of moving along that line as well, why did you choose electrical engineering for your bachelor's degree?
Well, I didn't know what I knew I'd be an engineer. As I said earlier, I'm a bit of a nerd. I did like my maths and science, and I chose elect because it sounded the hardest. I thought everyone said, "Oh, you got to be good at maths. This is a good one." I thought, well, I'm good at maths, so and I don't regret it. You know, it's really doing electronics engineering. It's not just electrical. In fact, electrical is a very small part of it. It is all about the small circuits, lasers, liquid crystal displays, you look at your iPad or your touch phone, your smartphone, it's all the stuff that's in that. That's what an electronics engineer studies. So and in fact, I'd say mechatronics and robotics is a really growth area too. I would have loved to have studied that too, which is looking at how they work together, looking at drones and robotics, and that's another great area too.
Wonderful. Another one of a bit of a personal question, I guess. Have you ever been to war or been in like an active combat situation? And do you have any experiences that you want to share about that?
Sure. Look, we do have a serious job, as I said, the Australian Defence Force. I have been deployed once to the Middle East. I was deployed as a logistics officer. Now, so the Defence Force is made up of so many different roles, and we're not all in combat roles. So we have our infantry out the front, and we have other, the warfighters in the pilots in the aircraft and on the ships and stuff. But my job was as a logistician. I had to protect myself and those that were on the base, but I never went outside and felt threatened by the enemy or anything like that. So it was a really good learning experience, and it was really good to sort of capstone what I'd been training for my whole life. And it's a bit like training to run on the footy pitch and then never getting a run on. You really want to get a run on and test yourself on the world stage, so to speak. And so it was a personally very satisfying it was a good 6 months job in the Middle East.
Sounds like you really enjoyed that. Moving on, sort of more into what the Defence Force has to offer for students. Are there a lot of jobs or a lot of roles in the Defence Force for science research and for those who are more interested in science compared to just engineering?
We do have some research science roles, and I'd encourage you to jump on Defence Jobs and look at that. We do have things like the Australian Malaria Institute, part of the Australian Defence Force, and other research capabilities. We also have a lot of public servants who work for the Defence Force, so they're not in the military like me. They are in the Defence Force or the Defence Organisation, and they are civilians who do it. So we have a lot of PhD, doctor type scientists, as well as engineers and people doing that research and development. So and you can absolutely look at those, look at other avenues to get into defence. The uniform engineers, we do less research and development because our focus is very on using the technology and employing it, whereas we have other people who are, the Tony Starks in the back doing that kind of research.
Sounds good. Moving on, so about the entrance process to ADF and getting into the Defence Force, how does the aptitude test work, and do you have any advice or any tips about getting a good result or passing that with flying colours?
Yeah, good question. The aptitude test, as I said, it's done at home, and they'll give you a few trial questions so you understand what sort of questions they will be, and make sure your interface works, your internet works. It actually only goes for about 20 minutes, and it's a lot of pattern recognition. Which is the next number in the sequence, or which of these objects is the odd one out, and it's speed and accuracy. So it's not getting everything right and moving on. In fact, I don't think you get penalised for wrong answers. So it's better to, if you don't know, have a guess and move on, and try to get as many answered as possible. There's very little you can do to study for it. It's not the kind of exam you can prepare for, except to be well rested, clear-headed, make sure you're going in with the right attitude, and just give it a crack. But as I said, if you're 16, 17, 18 years old and you have a go and you don't do as well as you would have hoped, come back 6 months later and have another go. So you've got absolutely nothing to lose. And it's if you're in year 12, that's why it's good to do it in year 11. That way you can do that practice run, so to speak. But yeah, it's not the kind of test you can study for. It's quite intuitive, I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably if it's an aptitude test, it might not be the best to pull out the book straight away.
Yeah.
But also about getting into the ADF, do the medical and fitness requirements change for various roles within the Defence Force?
Look, so I'll start with the physical requirements. The ones I showed earlier apply to almost all the roles. There's a few exceptions, such as commandos and firefighters and a few others where it's a bit different. But by and large, those physical standards are the same. For medical, yes, it does vary. So for example, height requirements to fit in an aircraft, you can't be too tall and you can't be too short. And so there are other limitations around those. But all I can say is don't discount yourself, come in and apply, speak to our medical staff, and they will tell you which roles that you have the aptitude, the medical ability or prerequisites for. For example, colour blindness may preclude you from some roles, but allow you into other roles. So don't think what we allow, what we don't allow. Just come in and have a chat.
Absolutely, sounds pretty encouraging for everyone out there. What are the other ways to enter the Australian Defence Force besides the pathway that you've talked about today, that 6-step pathway?
Yeah, sure. So that 6-step pathway is the same for everyone. That doesn't matter if you're going for the reserves, whether you're going for officer or general entry. The only difference is that officers do the officer selection board. So it's 5 steps for everyone, except officers do 6 steps. So it is pretty straightforward. But it's the same pathway. If you're not that academic and you want to do a trade, and I'd absolutely encourage this. You can apply to do a trade. We've got 35 different trades across the Navy, Army, and Air Force. And we will train you. We'll provide you a certificate 3 in heavy diesel vehicle mechanic or something like that. So there are so many options there. And as I say, just apply and see what doors are open.
100%. We've got time for a few more questions. Will the number of engineering fields, I believe there's 4 at the moment, will that be expanded in the future?
Yeah, good question. I think it will. I don't know. But those four engineering, they're just four engineering disciplines that you can study. That feeds into about 15 different engineering jobs. So for example, a mechanical engineer might end up becoming a marine engineer in the Navy, or that same mechanical engineer could end up becoming a mechanical engineer in the Army, or that aeronautical engineer might be one works on helicopters and another works on fast jets and another works on strategic heavy lift aircraft and things like that. So even though it's 4 degrees, they feed into a range of different jobs, and that's where you branch off and specialize once you've graduated. So university is not the end of your learning by any stretch. It is just, everyone should undertake lifelong learning. But I think mechatronics is my bet for the next one to open up, because I think that's the future.
Also on that topic about like the future and what the ADF is going to look like moving forward, do you think there will be more cyber roles or more opportunity for technologists for them to be part of the Defence Force, given the changing nature of warfare moving forward?
100% yes. We are opening up roles across the 3 services. The cyberspace is a new frontier, a new dimension that we have to understand and protect. And as we get cyber attacks, you hear it in the news most weeks. So we do have new roles, both uniformed roles like in uniform, and also civilian roles. So that is growth too. We're also opening up. We have a space element also in the Air Force, so looking into space as well. The Defence Force is really at the cutting edge of technology, is really pushing the boundaries, is really investing in individuals and hardware and IT. So it's a good place to be at the forefront of that.
Yeah, no, it sounds really exciting. Sounds like there's a lot going on in that space. We've got time for one more question. If you've got no prior leadership experience or work experience, how do you suggest promoting yourself towards the Defence Force and getting into ADFAR through the pathway that you've talked about before?
Yeah, look, I see a lot of resumes and I see a lot of profiles of people, and you've just got to do those other extracurricular things. And I know at school I used to roll my eyes when they'd say, oh, let's get out and door knock for charity, or let's do something on the weekend, a working bee or something. But those are really good things. They're really good things to show that you're committed, that you're passionate, that you can work with a team, that you can understand direction, that you can work in with conflict. Organize something. Like I've seen so many school students and university students organize things like, look what the Big Day In has done, going from a face-to-face and now virtual. There are so many opportunities to do things, collaborate at home, organize, even LAN parties, or you name it, organizing all those things. Show that you've got skills that we need, and we in Defence Force recruiting, we've had to rapidly adjust and go online, and so you need sort of people who are agile, creative. Creativity cannot be understated. Tim mentioned it earlier. I'd say it's the #1 skill as well. STEM-enabled creative people, the world is your oyster. Yeah.
Perfect, Ben. I didn't know there were so many opportunities for technologists and engineers to play a critical role in our Defence Force. So thank you for your time for introducing us to all of that today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Along with Tim, Ben will be answering all the remaining questions as soon as he can, and we'll make sure to post his responses on the Big Day In website. Don't forget to also check out the ACS Foundation Career Wheel if you want to find out more about the variety of roles in technology. The link will be on your screen now. We'd also like to thank all our sponsors who've made this virtual Big Day In possible, along with our 2 presenters today, Tim Kitchen and Ben Harrington. We hope you learned something new about IT pathways at today's virtual Big Day In. Next week, we'll be wrapping up the virtual Big Day In weekly series with Remus Ang from Avanade and a team of 4 from Bankwest. The link for next week's session with Avanade and Bankwest is on screen now, and we'll also email this link to all your teachers for those of you still watching at home. Don't forget, if you want to rewatch this presentation or any presentations from previous weeks, they're available on our website at www.thebigdayin.com.au. Just click on the Past Events tab. I look forward to seeing you all next week on the 5th of August at 11 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time. Have an amazing week and keep safe.